Feel the blues coming on its way. Are you ready? You get yours, 'cause I got mine. Oh, for the
We'll turn y'all live, ready?
Well, are we on?
We're on. We're here with Mr. Loy Hardcastle this morning.
You can tell it's live radio. Tom, are you with us?
It's a beautiful Thursday morning. Wouldn't you like
And
to?
unpredictable.
Wouldn't you like to be in Gulf Shores this morning?
Oh my gosh. I'm not sure I'd want to be anywhere near the Gulf. I mean, I've been seeing some of the reports of rain and 30
Yeah.
inches and flooding and boats on the street. Have you seen those pictures? Isn't that awful?
In fact, Jim Stevenson's son, what's his
Tommy
name?
or Jimmy?
Tommy
Yeah.
is up on the 20th
Oh
floor
my goodness.
of a condo building at Orange Beach,
Oh, my goodness.
riding it out.
Well,
Yeehaw!
if you're up that high, they can be safe as far as the water is concerned.
And as far as the water's
But you
concerned.
know, I saw, and I made a comment to somebody yesterday, I saw a picture of a hotel that had a third of the side blown out. Now, that hurricane didn't have but what, 80, 85 mile an hour winds, maybe 90? I mean, that's strong, I realize, but it was blown off. It wasn't portions, it was just the whole thing gone. So,
Well,
anyway, the power of nature is quite amazing, I guess. Hey, speaking of nature, what a beautiful morning.
Not a cloud in the sky,
Blue
sun
sky.
is up, and wait till this weekend when the high is 70-something degrees.
Well, that's gonna be nice, and it's heading toward fall, so I'm excited about it. We had, I think, didn't you mention a birthday or two? You had somebody this morning?
Oh, yeah, we've got a few around here. Tommy Smithson, I don't know if y'all know him, he paints, and
Sure.
James Thomas Smith Jr., Mr. Bubba, and Jimmy Davis, 46 today, not my brother, probably better looking than my brother.
Well, here's one that you didn't have on your list. We all know this name, Marriott, John Marriott.
J.W. Marriott.
J.W., well, that's right, but it was actually John,
Yeah.
was born on this day in 1900.
Called him Jack.
And then I thought I heard some Hank Williams songs this morning.
Well, Hank Williams today.
Hank Williams Sr.
Mhm.
was born on this day in 1923. And an interesting character actor, did a pretty good job throughout his career. Rodney Mcdowell was born on this day in 1928. Wasn't he in the Planet of the Apes series?
He sure was.
Yeah. And he was one of the apes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and played a character in the Batman series too, didn't he?
I
Yes,
believe
he did.
That's early Roddy McDowell.
That was the early Batman series, the
Yeah.
one that went Pow and
Da da da
Sock
da
and-
da
yeah,
da 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 da.
And then a great actress, a beautiful lady, Anne Bancroft,
Yes.
was born on this day in 1931. And I guess, you hate to be labeled, but probably her claim to fame was being Mrs. Robinson in The
Yeah.
Graduate. You know, that was such an iconic movie. And,
The original cougar.
Yeah. And then one of the cars that was so famous, and it's still famous, is a little Fiat Spider convertible, the one that Dustin Hoffman was driving. And
A
then,
young Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, he was. He was probably, what, 21 maybe?
Something like
20,
that.
21.
Yeah.
John Ritter was born on this day.
In
1948.
In Nashville, Tennessee.
sirree.
Lived on Franklin Road.
And did a great job in the Series 3's company.
Mhm.
Great job. And gosh, he died awfully young.
He
Seemed
sure
like.
did.
Anyway, some other.
He probably went to an Exotics concert or
You know,
two.
yeah, chances are good he would have, because we would have played all over his neighborhood.
Yeah, Overton.
Yeah, sure. RCA, the record company, demonstrated and came out with the first, they called it an LP, 33 and a third record.
What
And
year was that?
19 and 31.
Wow.
And of course my mother
Was that a
had-
78?
No, 33 and a third.
33,
Yeah.
okay.
And it was thinner, you know, and it was
Yeah.
flexible. The old 78s were thick, and they would break. I mean, easily.
Yeah.
They would shatter like glass almost. My mother had boxes of those 78s with the original recordings of Artie Shaw and Benny
Whatever
Goodman
happened
and
to
all
those?
things. I think my sister wound up with them. I think
It's
Cheryl
still,
had.
it's still playing.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. If you can find a 78 player.
Yeah.
Brenda Lee born on this day in 1956. No, I'm sorry, I take that back. I got this wrong. This is not her
1946.
birthday. She released
Oh,
one of her famous tunes, Jambalaya,
Oh, yeah.
on this day in 1956. I thought
A
that
cover
didn't sound
song.
right. A cover song, that's right.
Covered Hank,
Yeah, Smothers Brothers first hit the air.
Tommy,
TV.
and
Tommy and what was his
Tommy
brother's
and
name?
Timmy or
No.
something.
Tommy.
The straight man.
Yeah, that's why you can't remember. You can remember the funny guy.
You can't remember the straight guy.
But they were good musicians too, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Very, very good musicians.
Good
that show-
pickers.
Hmm?
Good pickers.
Yes, that show debuted in 1965, and Vanessa Williams, beautiful lady,
Yeah.
became the. It was Tommy Smothers.
That's right.
Yeah, Vanessa Williams became the first black Miss America. What
Yeah.
a beautiful girl she was, and 2 or 3 other things. Of course, this is
It's mother.
Constitution Week.
All right, I'll let
Today's
them know.
Constitution Day,
Constitution Day,
yeah.
and actually, I have a copy.
I believe you're right.
Constitution right here, a little
I thought
pocket
it started
copy.
with
You
B.
got one of those? Looks like you're heading
On the
toward it.
hometown radio show today, Loy,
Okay,
we're gonna read the
All right, I'll let them, I'll
Constitution.
pass it
Well,
on
I've
to them.
already read it, and,
That's best opinion.
and this has also the Declaration of Independence in this book. Interesting reading. Everybody should certainly read it many times, and now's a good time to read it. If you haven't read it, let me tell you, during
Oh,
these
brother.
crazy times. But at any rate, the first transcontinental flight was started on this day in 1911. Can you believe that?
Wow.
They had a plane that would fly across country. Now, it took 82 hours. So they had to stop
How many
and refuel.
times did it land?
Yeah, it had to stop and refuel, but it went from New York to Pasadena, California on 1911. And then Hoover Dam, Boulder Dam, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
They started construction on this day in 1930. Have you ever seen the documentary of the building of that dam? If you haven't, it's really
I
fascinating.
have, and I
It's
have been
fascinating.
down in that zone.
I haven't been in it, but I've been to it and walked
is
across
a
it.
lot of concrete
Oh
there.
my goodness, well, the documentary is quite interesting, how they built that thing. The engineering was amazing. You know, we think we can do some things today, but when you look at how those guys built that thing, and was swinging on those ropes, and those little chairs, and those air hammers all up and down that mountainside and so forth, really, really interesting. Reggie Jackson, great baseball player, hit his 500th home run
Mr. October.
this day in 1984. Pretty good. And now this sounds such a small number. The Dow Jones hit an all-time high of 17,156 on this day in 2014. Now, you know, when you and I were growing up, the Dow Jones would be like 400, 500,
Yeah.
600. It's quite interesting.
And now
to think
what
about
is
that.
it?
It's 20,
27, 28?
28,000, I think. they
Wow.
have it. And I don't even know what those numbers mean. I'd rather be there, I guess, than 500. I
Yeah,
guess it's wrong.
yeah.
I just don't know what all that means. But at any rate, Constitution Week, again, and Constitution Day, it is a good time to look and read the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and think about why we're here. We fled England due to taxation,
Yeah.
you know, so we sure.
Without representation.
I'm telling you, and it could happen again, and very easily, and you know, it's happening in Metro if you think about it.
You
And
don't
of course-
have to be a member of the Supreme Court to understand the U.S. Constitution.
Oh, that's exactly right. It's written, of course, it's written very well.
Yeah.
You can tell those guys knew how to write. I mean,
James
they're just-
Madison and Thomas Jefferson did a good job.
Yes, the style of writing is so different than what we see today. I read the newspaper, and I wonder where these people learned how to write, because the phrasing is so weird, and you know, it goes on what happened, then it says the last 2 words says on Thursday, and you go, well, where did that come from? What's on Thursday? But anyway, read it. That's about all I can say. Understand
And
it,
read the
believe it,
newspaper too.
and live it.
Yeah.
Live it, that's the main thing, that's live it. I was
Just a
laughing.
second.
Go ahead.
Well, you got a phone call from a listener, Miss Mindy Tate, that wanted to inform y'all she believed the other Smothers brother was Dick.
That's
Tommy
right,
Dicky
it was,
Smothers.
yeah,
She
it was,
was in that,
yeah, thank you, Mindy.
And she,
Tommy Dicky Smothers.
She also wanted to pass a little information on, it seems there's a train stuck on the, Lewisburg Pike section right there.
Oh my, that
Trying to
means
avoid that,
traffic's gonna have to go around.
yeah.
Speaking of that, Sunday I was headed down to Atlanta to visit someone, and amazingly got stuck in a shooting over on I-24.
A shooting on I-24.
Yeah. The interstate, of course, was closed down.
Was this in the borough or what?
No, this was some crazy guy hijacked a car or two and killed a
Killed
couple
one
people.
and shot
yeah,
two.
Yeah, and I was right in the front of that line.
Oh my.
Blocked on the highway, and I sat there for an hour and a half, and both sides of the interstate, of course, were closed. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try to cross this median, and I was not in a truck.
Yeah.
So I had to be real careful, but I made it across and went back toward Murfreesboro, and I was gonna get off on Highway 41 and go on down south to Atlanta and get back on the interstate somewhere. But there were two traffic wrecks on 41, so it was backed up all the way to the interstate, to the road that led to Highway 4, so I just came back home.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
Plus it was raining like crazy.
Well, yeah.
So, any rate, that was a nasty mess. One of the things I heard this morning, and I love these things that Richard plays, Jerry Clower. Jerry was a funny guy,
Jerry.
just a storyteller.
He sure was.
And I remember the first time I met Jerry, our little band that we used to play in bars and lounges and so forth, wasn't exotics, but we were playing in a bar and restaurant over by the Bellmead Theater, and I believe the name of that place was the Houndstooth. It was a restaurant right on West End, and they had a restaurant and so forth, but they also had a big room where you could have private parties. And we were getting ready to play, and there was a private party on the other end of the building. And I heard all this laughing and carrying on, and I thought, what in the world is going on? So at any rate, I sort of eased down through there and heard just ha ha ha, and I heard somebody talking and heard something about a chainsaw. And I hid behind some curtains to see what that was all about. And I had never heard Jerry Clower, didn't know who he was, didn't even know who it was in there at the moment. But I stood there behind that curtain, listening to this guy, and I started laughing like crazy. I thought, who is this man?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I found out later it was Jerry Clower, and he was just beginning to make it. Tandy, was his manager.
Tandy Rice.
And he was just beginning to make it, and within the next day or two, I actually heard a recording on the radio of Mr. Clower, and I thought, well, I've seen that guy, but he was hilarious. And then eventually we did sell him a car because he did some advertising for Dodge,
Yeah.
if you recall. And Tandy had him here, and he came down and bought a car because he said he didn't want to advertise something he didn't own.
Good for him.
Yeah, so he came down. I wondered about that though later on when he started advertising pantyhose. Remember when he did that?
That's right.
I thought, oh, wait a second, does he wear that stuff or what? But at any rate, but he was a nice guy and a pretty good sized fellow too.
If it was a cold day, he might have.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But anyway, Jerry Clower was a very interesting guy, very funny guy, just telling stories.
Yeah.
He was just Andy Griffith, was another good storyteller.
Yeah, he sure was.
We think of him as Andy Griffith Show, Matlock,
Andy
some of the other
Mayberry,
things,
yeah.
Andy Mayberry, some of the other things. But he actually had some albums similar to Clower that he was just storytelling.
Yeah, we've got some of those around here. We need to roll them out.
Yeah, I'll bet you do. So, and anyway, it's interesting to go back and see. In fact, I try to watch some of that old Andy Griffith rerun stuff simply because it takes you back to a time that some of us can remember. You and I can remember those
Relatively
times.
stress-free.
Absolutely, and just so, the controversy was where you're gonna eat.
Yeah.
Where you're gonna have scrambled eggs or fried eggs. I mean, that was the big topic of discussion back in those days, but it pulls you down a little bit, and takes the edge off of maybe your day or something like that.
Me
So,
TV, Channel 6.
yeah, well, anyway, keep that in mind. It's really, really good stuff, interesting stuff. So anyway, on to a little real estate. We have inventory. It's the lowest I've ever seen. I checked just a few minutes ago, 634 houses. Now we've been doing this now for a few months, and you've heard it anywhere from 800 or 900, and then 700, and now it's down to 634 available this morning. And again, we are selling over 600 a month. So that's a 1 month supply. I think what's gonna happen is, there's no way that the supply is gonna catch up to the demand. So those numbers will become even, pretty soon, and, I'm not sure which direction we're going in. There are some developments that are being proposed. They are being proposed in some awfully unusual places, in my opinion. Hillsborough Road.
Leapers Fork.
Now that, I think that development, Leapers Fork, the one they started 3 million, is
Yeah.
that the one you're talking about? I think that'll only have maybe 9 homes in there.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't have much of an impact on traffic. But
But,
you take the one out here, Brownland Farms.
The one on the river,
I
yeah.
think they're talking about building 800 or something like that in there.
Yeah.
In that area, townhomes, combination of so forth. Can you imagine dumping all those people right out there in Hillsborough Road where it's already extraordinarily congested?
And those are in the city, aren't they?
Yeah.
That means Franklin Special School District's gonna have to build a school out there.
If they build 800 houses, they'll probably have to build more than one school,
Yeah.
because there'll be a lot of children in there. But then, another thing too, which affects us, and we talk about this, we talk about growth, and it's a reality, so we have to learn to at least somewhat deal with it. We really don't, it's too late to stop it. I'm not even sure you can slow it down, but in the Tennessean this morning, there was an article, a publication called The Wire, which is a conservative publication out of California, which is almost an oxymoron
Yeah.
to think.
Say
But,
what?
What's the guy's name? Ben Shapiro, I
Ben
believe,
Shapiro.
is moving his whole company to Nashville. And they're from California, and he's saying he's leaving because of the politics and all the craziness going on in California. Didn't mention the wildfires, because that's kind of an act of nature, but still, it's one of those things that could hit you, you know. But he's moving here, and he thinks all of his employees, I think he said he had 75, might move here as well. So, and so they'll be coming in here, they'll need houses. So, anyway, it's just continuing to grow, a lot of things going on. I have run into this, and I don't know whether you do, Tom, you get out and you see a lot of people. And that is one of the things that we offer, and we have to really keep up with and try to excel at, and that's customer service. Customer service is a rare thing today, almost everywhere you go. And I don't know exactly what has tipped that needle toward lack of customer service or bad customer service. And I'm not gonna mention any names here, but I have a motorcycle I've had for, gosh, 30 years, I guess. And I took it in, I called back in August, I said I'd like to have an oil change and a couple of things, it's gonna need tires and so forth, and, you know, nothing major. And so they said, well, we're behind, so can you bring it in September the 1st? I said, yes, I'll have it there, Tuesday, September the 1st, so I carried it there. Called yesterday, been over 2 weeks there, and I said, well, I'm ready to pick it up, is it ready to go? And, you know, I said, hold on a minute, and then one guy picks up and he says, well, let's see, he read off what I had to do. I said, yep, that's mine, yeah, is it ready? He said, well, no, he said, but we have an estimate. I said, an estimate? What do you mean an estimate? I just brought it in to have it done. You know, I didn't ask you how much it was gonna be, I had an idea, and there was anyway, I said, an estimate? I said, you've had it over 2 weeks. And they hadn't even called me to tell me what the estimate was either. And so they turned me then over to the manager. And, you know, I tried to be calm, but in my older days, I'm getting a little less calm in certain cases. And I like this motorcycle. It's kind of out of its pen, so to speak, and I want it back in its pen, you know. And the guy said, well, you know, didn't they call you? And I said, no, they didn't. Well, I said, I'm gonna come and pick it up. I'll be there tomorrow. I'm coming out, don't touch it, don't do anything. So here and he said, well, now, he told me, we're 2 weeks behind. And I said, you told me that when I called, and you 2 or 3 weeks, and I brought it to you. So at any rate, so it'd been there for over 2 weeks, and they had made an estimate of putting on 2 tires now, and 2 shocks, and an oil and filter change. and still hadn't touched it. So,
Well,
that's
and
really bad customer service.
The key to that is the communication factor too.
You
If
know-
they had called you in 2 days
Yeah.
and said, here's the estimate, by the way, it's gonna take some, you'd be just fine with it.
It shouldn't have taken them 10 minutes to make an effort. They could have done that while I stood there.
Yeah.
How much trouble is to look up 2 shocks and tell me how much it is to
Yeah.
put mine tires? They do that every day, you know. So anyway, my point is, I see that in so many areas today. And this lack of customer service, lack of communication, things like that. In the world of real estate, in my opinion, and I think it's based on fact, if you don't do your job, you can lose your license. So if you like what you're doing, if you like real estate, and you don't do your job and lose your license, you can't sell real estate anymore. I'm not sure what the waiting period is, either if you lost your license, if somebody took you to their real estate court and they determined that you just had done a bad job and we're gonna take your license. I don't know whether they say you can apply for them again in a year or 2 years or never. I guess it depends on the infraction.
Well,
But-
you might lose your license, but you'd lose your customers.
Well, you lose everything.
Yeah.
And it's just so we are customer driven. Now, we have a lot of technicalities that come up, that's for sure. Things we have to get done, schedules we have to meet, time frames, something has to be done within a 10-day or 2-day or whatever we set up. And those things are very important, and that's certainly customer service. But we have to build our business around customer service, there's no doubt about it. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to communicate with somebody on a daily basis. One of the things that I try to do is that as negative things pop up during a deal, if I can keep the client out of the solving of the issue, I do that, because I don't wanna have to pick up the phone and worry them and let them not sleep at night about what's happening, is this thing blowing up and all that sort of stuff. It's my job to try to solve the problem and get to the closing, whether you're a buyer or a seller. So I keep a lot of that stuff to myself, and I get to the closing and I'm thinking, you would not believe what we had to go through to get to this point.
Is that
But
why you have
but
gray
can't.
hair?
Yeah, that plus my age, but that's right. But you have to keep some of that stuff to yourself, but you have to keep pushing
Yeah.
to accomplish your goal, and all of that is part of customer service. On my part, but we have a great staff at Bob Parks Realty as well, and they are very customer service oriented. So as a team, we have to really strive to take care of the customer.
Well, you definitely know what you're doing, that's fact.
Well, we have to, and I fortunately have been in it long enough. Another thing that somebody brought to mind yesterday was, in some cases, well, in a lot of cases, I guess, I know who to call to fix, repair, whatever. Richard was talking about a painter a few minutes ago. You have to know some of these people, because sometimes you have to call these people and get something done in a moment. And I mean within an hour or certainly a day. And just like that motorcycle, they said, oh, we're 2 weeks behind. Well, if we need something done to a house to get it ready to sell, or we have something broken or whatever, you can't wait 2 or 3 weeks. You've got to get something done today, if at all possible. That stuff just won't wait. So in my case, particularly having lived here all my life, I'm familiar with a lot of people, as you are. And plumbers, electricians, you know, people that are out there that provide these services that are so necessary. And we know who to call.
News of bad customer service goes a whole lot farther than news of good customer service.
We used to study that in the car business, and I forget the ratio, but it was something like one person's gonna tell 10 people about a bad experience, but
Yep.
they're only gonna tell a couple of people about a good experience. So what you said is so true, that whatever happens that's bad really has a pretty long life sometimes out there, especially on the internet. It has a forever life if it ever hits the internet.
Something we don't talk about enough here is how you can not only hear this program, but see this program.
Oh, that's
Can you
right.
tell folks about that?
Yeah, I forgot. Thank you for bringing that up. We're doing it right now. we've got somebody here filming for YouTube.
Yeah.
And we are putting these things out on a weekly basis, you know, we're filming the thing and putting it out there. So, you know, if you really want something to do to maybe put you to sleep or whatever, just tune us in. We're on YouTube, and I think you just go and look up Round the Clock Realtor. And or put my name in there and it'll pop up there. And we'd like for you to, if you do that, subscribe to the thing, so we'll kind of know if somebody's actually looking, watching, listening, whatever.
You need to make that a registered trademark, by the way.
But it's out there. Yeah, and you know, somebody asked me, where did we come up with that name? Was it you? Or
Yeah, it was me. It was a long
I
time
thought
ago.
it would either be you or Hudson when we were doing commercials.
But it was when you just got started.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you know, we joke about it around the clock, but I have, and I think I've mentioned this to you, I've gotten calls at 1 or 2 in the morning about real estate. And I think it was people that didn't expect anybody to answer and they were gonna leave a message. And of course, at 1 o'clock, I am asleep, and I thought, oh, you know, if the phone was ringing, I'd pick it up, you know? And they go, oh, well, and they were calling from California or something, you know, different time zone. But they were certainly shocked that I answered the phone, but that's part of that round-the-clock deal. Question about real estate. This is important. This happens all the time. When you sell your house and you go to closing, you've got property taxes that you owe. They are prorated on a daily basis. Now, you get a bill, of course, for the entire year, and you pay your property taxes in arrears. So when you get a bill, you're paying for the previous year, not for the coming year, but for the previous year. So you sell your house, you know, June, July, whatever, August. You're more than likely going to get a tax bill of the little card that you get in the mail. You're going to get it toward November, whenever those things come out. You don't pay that because you paid it at closing. Go back and look at your documents. I have people that call and say, I just got, what am I supposed to do with it? And I used to say, just throw it away, but I could tell that scared them. I don't mean scared, but you know, they thought, oh my goodness, should I really throw it? And I would say, well, look, if you want to, just bring it by the office or mail it to me, but you really don't need it. It's already been taken care of. Your taxes were paid by the closing attorney, and then the new owner owes for the rest of the year. Not you, but you might still get it because in the system, you still might be in the system with that address under your name. But don't worry about that. You should not. Oh, now the closing attorney messed up. Well, that's another issue, but very seldom does that happen. I've never seen it happen, in fact, in my career. But just toss that thing away if you like. You don't have to worry about it. If you've closed a house, your taxes should have been paid at closing for the time that you stayed in it for that year.
Is that considered part of a closing cost?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, actually, yeah, it is, and I always try to, and you can figure that on a daily basis, you know, because it's so much a year divided by 365, and then if you're gonna close June 1st, charge for half a year, so you can get within a few dollars of that deal. But yeah, that's what I consider kind of a 1% closing cost fee, because by the time you pay your attorney, pay your taxes, your closing costs, things like that, not counting your mortgage fees. Now that's a whole different area. But just if you figure 1% amount for your taxes, what part of insurance you might still owe, things like that, it's generally going to run about 1% of the sales price. So, but that's a part of the closing cost for sure.
Was the biggest check you've ever written at a closing?
The biggest check I've ever written.
Mm-hmm. Biggest check I ever wrote was closing of my house.
Well,
Oh, excuse me, closing of on
Mallory Station.
222 Mallory Station Road.
You know, it would have been related to buying a property, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been paying for a house. I've had 1 or 2 I was able to pay for, so smaller investment things, and they would have been the biggest checks. But even small checks, people aren't accustomed to writing checks for, used to write checks for down payment of $10,000 or $8,000. It was hard sometimes to get all that on one line. Your smaller checks, you know, they write too big and then they get smaller as they get down toward the end, and then they just stop. But anyway, we can help you write those checks.
Is
All
there
you have
anything
to
you can do about the stress of writing
I
a check like
I can
that?
write the check for you, just let you sign it. Take that stress right off, whatever you, so if you wanna do that, give me a call. If you wanna talk about real estate, if you wanna buy or sell, give me a call, Loy Hardcastle, at Bob Parks Realty, 615-790-7400, or visit us at at our new office, right behind Landmark Booksellers.
109 East Main, 106 East Main Street.
East Main, but it's still hard to find. It's right behind Landmark Booksellers, not Landmark Bank, but we're close to Landmark Bank.
All right, sir.
Have a great week.
And we'll talk tomorrow morning briefly on the morning
Absolutely.
news.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you.
again, not the website, but the YouTube channel.
YouTube is Round the Clock Realtor or Loy Hardcastle.
News is next. Thank you, Richard.